You have surely seen these engaging text animations in virtually every modern explainer video. In this tutorial, I will show you 3 powerful techniques to make your text more readable through smart highlighting, including a game-changing AI approach with Submagic, today's sponsor, but more on them later. Finally, we will also build those modern text boxes that automatically resize to your text. So let us jump right into After Effects. I am in After Effects and we are going to start from our first example. So let's pick the text tool from right over here and we are going to type in create bold readable animation, and that's our first sentence. We are going to pick that sentence and center it using the align tool right over here. You can even select different fonts from here, so in this case I'm using darker text bold, but you can pick any font and then we can start animating this. So let's select this sentence, we're going to open it up and we're going to go to animate and we're going to animate this scale. Perfect. So now we're going to set the scale to 0. I'm going to rename it to animation in, so that I know that this is the in animation. And then I'm going to go to the range selector right over here. And if I go over offset in here, I can see that I can scrub to reveal this sentence. So I can go from 0% to 100%. In this case, let's leave this at 100%. But if we go under advanced right over here, we can find another property named smoothness. So right now, if I scrub through this, you can see this little tiny animation happening in here with the scale, but I would like this to look more like a typing animation. So I'm going to go to smoothness and set that to 0%. And this way it is sharper, and as you can see, this looks more like a typing animation like that. So let's set that to 100% for now, then move on to the next animator. So now we're going to select this sentence once again, go to animate, and we're going to add another animator. This time it's going to be a fill color and RGB. Now let's go over that animator. Let's go to add, and I'm also going to add a position animator right over here. And this will be under the same animator, under animator 1. Let's rename this animator. So we're going to rename this to highlight 1. I can select a different color from here. So let's select, for instance, something like blue. Perfect. I can also reposition this from here if I like, and this will be specifically for that specific character that we are going to target. So let's set this to 0 for now, and then we can see how this works at a later stage. I'm going to go over this sentence right over here, and I'm going to bring in some slider controls so that I can control which character we're going to select. So let's go to Effects and Presets. We're going to bring in a slider control, type in slider in here and drag and drop it over this sentence. And this is going to be named highlight position 1. Make sure that the naming is 100% like this, since it won't work if the naming is different. Command D on your keyboard to duplicate this, and we are going to rename this to animation amount 1. Let's duplicate that one more time, and this time is going to be named to fall of radius 1. So that's our slider controls, and with that done, we can go over the highlight one in here, the animator that we have added earlier, and we can go to the range selector. Now, if we open this range selector, in here we can choose which character we are going to target, like that, but this will require a lot of manual work later on. So this time we are going to actually use an expression that will do this automatically for us, but in this case we cannot use the range selector. So I'm simply going to remove this range selector, so delete that, and we are going to add another selector. So to add another selector, go to highlight 1, in this case the animator that we have added earlier, go to add, and instead of property we're going to go to selector. And from here we can choose to add another range selector like we just had, but we can also add an expression selector. Let's click on that, and there we go, we have our expression selector 1 added right over here, and it has a basic expression already added into it. So if we go inside of amount, we can see this basic expression right over here. But in this case, we're going to use a different expression that will basically help us choose which character we are going to target. And this expression, what it does, it calculates the total length of this sentence, see how many characters there are inside of it, and then target specific characters inside of that. If you are new to expressions, don't worry about it. I'm going to provide this expression for free, so you can simply copy and paste it. So let's find the document in here. I am going to share this document with you. And first you will find the slider control names in here. So make sure that your slider controls are exactly like this. And then we can simply pick the whole expression here. Over each line in here, you can find a very simple explanation of what that specific expression does. Command C on our keyboard to copy, and then paste it right over here. Make sure to replace the current expression with this one. Paste it right over there, and there we go, our expression is added, and right now nothing is happening. And that's because we need to adjust the features that we have added right over here. So let's first add the animation amount. This will control how much we want to target that character. In this case, it is set to 0. If we turn that to 100%, now you can find the first character, which is set to blue, which is this color. And if I actually turn on even the position in here, you can see that animation amount now 100% targeting that first character. The second one is the highlight position 1 in here. So if we scrub through this, we can see that we can go from a 0% to 100% to go to the very end of this sentence. But of course, this is quite odd to actually select only one character. So one option in this case that you have is to actually target a specific word instead of a character. So we can go to based on and change that to a word. And right now this disappears. That's because we need to target a lower value in here. And there we go. We can see it now working like that. So like that, we can target specific words. But another option that you have is actually to turn this back to characters and then go to fall off radius and increase that slightly. So if we increase that, you can see that it creates this kind of gradient that actually turns the animation amount from 100% on the selected character to 0 on the end character. And this is perfect for what we are doing right over here. So I like how this looks. Now I would like to animate this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to simply go to highlight position 1 in here, go to around 1.5 seconds, and we are going to add a keyframe over this highlight position 1. Click on the stopwatch, hit U so that we can see that specific keyframe. Then we can go to the start from here, set this to 0. Actually, let's set this to a negative value, something like -35 in this case, so that it starts from completely outside right over there. Let's go to this end keyframe in here, and we are going to set that to 100%. And actually, once again, we're going to go a bit more than 100 so that we make up for that fall off radius right over there. So in this case, 130 would work. So now we're going to select this end keyframe, go to the graph editor and select the end keyframe, hit F9 on your keyboard and toggle that like that. And let's see how that looks. And that looks wonderful. Right now, this is not revealing our sentence. It's just highlighting that specific part. This already looks nice. But what I would like to do is actually to reveal this sentence while it is being highlighted. To do that, I'm simply going to open this up, go to text and find the animation in property. Let's turn off the graph layer in here. Go to animation in. We're going to go to that range selector that we have selected earlier. And if you remember, we can select which part we want to reveal using the offset right over here. So we are simply going to tie this offset to this highlight position. To do that, I'm going to open this right over here. So this is highlight position 1 under effects. And we are simply going to go over this offset, alt click on offset. And then we're going to pick this pick whip right over here and drag and drop it over this slider under the highlight position 1 right over here. And now the offset value is like the highlight position 1 value right over here. So let's see how that looks. And this looks quite good. Now the great thing about this is actually that we can do different animations in here depending on what we add inside of highlight 1. So if I go inside of highlight 1 now, I can simply go to, for instance, add in here, go to property, and we can add something like the rotation. So if I add the rotation, now I can rotate this. And as you can see, now we have this funky animation where it animates in like that. And this is all based on the highlight position 1. So I can simply give this a different value, as you can see, and it will just react to that. And we can also tweak the fall off radius. And if we give that a very low value like 2, it will look like that. And if we give it a very high value like that, it will look like that. You can see the versatility of this effect right over here. Now let's take this a step further and also add a text box to this text. So in this case, I'm going to remove the position. I'm just going to keep the color in here. And then we are going to add a simple rectangle right over here. Let's draw a rectangle right over that one. And I'm going to rename this to text box. We can position it right under the text. Simply arrange this in the middle like that. Tweak the settings of this. So let's go to rectangle 1. Let's go to rectangle path in here. We're going to increase the roundness. Let's make them around 40. We can even add a stroke. So in this case, it's very large. So let's go to stroke and turn that to around 2. That's our text box, as you can see. We can add a different fill. So let's go to fill. And from here, I'm going to select a gradient, a linear gradient. Okay. Select the first part in here and drag that right over there. The end part, we're going to drag it right over there. We're going to go over fill, and this time we're going to give it this blue color, but a little bit dark, something like that. Let's go to the end, give it a black color. This looks quite nice, but the thing that I would like to add, I would like this text box to resize automatically with my text right over here. So to do that, once again, we need to add a simple expression. Once again, you can simply copy and paste this, and what this expression will do, it will basically calculate the whole length of this text and place that inside of the size of this rectangle path. So let's go to size right over here, and I have this expression right over here. So let's scroll down, and you can simply copy this, Command C, and we're going to paste it inside of the size property right over here. Alt click on size and paste it right over there. Now, by default, you will actually see this expression error in here. Don't worry, what we need to do is actually open this expression. In here, we can see that we have written my text layer equals thiscomp.layer text layer. So the name is actually named text layer in here. So what we need to do is simply pick this text layer and rename this to text layer. So text layer, make sure that it is written like this exactly, and then when we click out, you can see that working immediately. So now we have that text box that is auto-resizing, as you can see, with our text. The problem that we have in here is that it's not centered over that text. It's not repositioning with that text. To reposition it with that text, what we need to do is actually add another simple expression to the position. But before we do that, I'm actually going to add some padding right over here. So as you can see right now, the text box is exactly with our words in here. So in this case, I'm going to enter inside of this expression right over here, and we're going to go to the width right over here, text bounds.width, and we are going to simply type in plus, and in this case 120, and this is the number of pixels that we would like as a padding right over here. So it will take the current width plus 120. And then we're going to go to the height right over here. And once again, we're going to simply type in plus right in front of the semicolon here, plus 80 in this case. So it will take the current height and add to that 80 pixels. So let's click out, and immediately you can see that having the right padding right over there. So now let's add an expression to the position. So it's very important not to add it to the rectangle path 1 position, but we need to add it to the transform rectangle 1 position right over here. Bring in the expression, and we're going to pick this expression, copy, and then we're going to go to this position, hold Alt on your keyboard and click on the stopwatch and simply paste it right over there. And now we can see it working perfectly like that. Now what I am noticing is that this first word in here, since we have started the highlight position at -35, is actually bringing in the word earlier in here. So what I would like to do is actually go over the keyframes that I have done earlier, hit U on your keyboard, pick the slider, the first keyframe of the highlight position 1, and turn that back to 0 like that. And now you can see that working like that. Perfect. So now the basic animation is actually done. Of course, we can make this look even better by adding things like glowing outlines, etc. We will actually be covering how to do that at the end of this video. But before that, I would like to humbly ask you if you can simply like and comment below. This would help me to reach more people and do more videos like this one. Now, a great use for this approach that we have done right over here is actually to do captions for your videos, like subtitles. In this case, I have a similar setup in here, and I'm going to reduce the fall off to 0, and I'm going to go over the highlight 1 in here, and under expression selector, if I open that up, I'm going to change this from characters to words. And like that, I can select which word I can highlight from here, just scrub over these values in here. And of course, I can animate these with my voice. A problem of this is, of course, that as you can imagine, this is very time consuming. So a better way of doing this is actually using AI. This is why I would like to introduce this sponsor for today, who is Submagic. And Submagic would do this all automatically for you using any style that you choose. And you can even auto-translate languages and so on. So this is perfect for captions. Let's have a look. I am right inside of Submagic. As you can see, it is a web application which you can use directly inside of your browser. To start generating captions, you can simply click on Generate Captions. From here, you can simply import your video. In this case, I'm using a very simple video in here with my graded background right over here. Also has my voice right over it. So it is important to actually have your voice so that it can auto caption it. And from here, we can select the language. We can also click Translate Captions if we would like this in a different language, and you can simply choose a language right over here. In this case, I'm going to keep it at English, and I'm just going to click Generate Captions. Once it is ready, it takes you directly inside of this window where you can preview your video. so you can immediately see your video right over here. So the first thing I want to highlight is actually this little button in here, which you can simply adjust for different social media platforms. So for instance, we can create one for stories right over here, and you can go ahead and preview your text. Now on the left, you can simply choose your style. So let's choose, for instance, this style and preview this very quickly. And you can even auto-translate languages and so on. So this is perfect for captions. And you can see that this has been done already for us. I already like how this looks, but I can also choose a different style, for instance, this one, and customize it. To customize it, it's very simple. First, we can choose the caption position from right over here. So I'm going to move it to the middle in this case, and then we can increase also the font size, for instance. I can give it a different font color. So I'm going to turn this to like this light pink. I'm going to give this main color like white. Then the second color, I'm going to turn that to black. That's basically it for now. Now I would like to continue to customize this, and I can do that by simply clicking Customize Leon in this case. And from here, we can choose any font. So a font that I really like is Poppins. From font weight, I'm going to choose bold. I'm going to remove the uppercase in this case. And what I like to do is to keep it very simple. So I'm going to remove the stroke weight and remove the shadows, just like that. Let's have a look at this. And Submagic will do this all automatically for you using any style you choose. Of course, it has done those emojis for us. These might be good for certain projects. In this case, I would like to remove them, and you can easily remove them from auto emoji in here, set that to none. I think that's basically it. I quite like how this looks. Now, if you are happy with this style, you can easily rename this, click save, and then you can create a theme. So if I click create theme, this actually creates a theme for us, so we can reuse this multiple times. A great thing that it also has is that we can also edit captions. So if I click on edit captions in here, I can see all of the captions in here and how they are arranged. So for instance, automatically might be a bit too long for here, so I can move it down. Simply click on it, click on split into new line. We can do that, or else I can click on the word before it and click on add line break. And like that, I can split it and I can remove the line break. So as you can see, you can really customize this however you like. Another great feature that it has is actually trimming by sound rather than by time. So if I go to trim right over here, I can simply select a sentence that I don't want. So for instance, let's say I don't want this sentence. I can simply click on remove, and as you can see, it has removed it. And now if I play this, the video is much shorter. And Submagic will do this all automatically for you using any style you choose. So this is perfect for captions. So as you can see, this is very fast to edit. And another great feature is actually to click on remove silences. If I click on extra fast, for instance, remove silences, this just removes all the empty spaces in your voice so that the video is faster and more continuous. Of course, it has many other features, like for instance, adding audio, adjusting colors and so on. So go ahead on their website and check all their features right over there. Great, so we are back in After Effects, and before we see how we can do the glowing outline around our text box, I'm actually going to show you another way of how you can highlight specific words and characters inside of your sentence. Now, this is for those who would like to do it a little bit quicker, and this is using a preset. Of course, you can still focus on the first part of this tutorial where you can see how you can do this without any preset, but in this case, if you'd like to do it a little bit quicker and even have more control over your animation, you can watch this part right over here. Right now, we don't have any animation on this apart from that animation in that we have added earlier using the range selector in here. So we can animate that from 0 to 100% like that. And now we're going to pick our preset. So let's go to effects and presets. So it's named text highlights preset. Just type in highlight and it should come up right over here if you installed it, and you can simply drag and drop it over your word right over there. And right away, we can see everything applied automatically for us, and we have all the controls right under the text highlights in here inside of effect controls. So let's open text highlight 1. And from here, we can of course tweak the highlight position from a 0 to 100%. And let's go to our stopwatch from here, go from 0%, hit U on our keyboard, go to around 1 second in here, and turn that to 100%. If we hit F9 on my keyboard now, pick that last keyframe, and then pull in this keyframe in here, we can see our animation. The great thing about this is that you can actually go inside of the animated properties in here, and you can give it any property that you like. So we can add something like position, for instance, and it will look like that. We can add something like scale, and it would decrease the height of this, for instance, and we can do things like rotation and so on. You have all the options that you have right over here. So even reduce its opacity, use a different fill color, even increase the tracking if you would like, and so on. So feel free to experiment with this to add your own animations. Now, what I'm going to do, if I go right over text highlight 2, I have an option to add another text highlight. By default, this is set to off, so highlight intensity is set to off. But if I turn that to 100%, now I have a second highlight. And I can also animate its position right over here. I can also increase or decrease its fall-off radius like that. And of course, you also have all the animated properties in here that you can select from right over here. Another interesting option that we have in here, if we open the actual animators in here. So if we go inside of text and find the highlighter to here, animator, we can actually go inside of the expression selector right over here and turn that to words. And now the same thing would work, but for words. So let's bring in the highlight position to a lower value. For this to work properly, it needs to be a low value. And I'm also going to turn the fall-off radius to 0 in this case. And then I'm going to scrub to a low value until I see my word. And as you can see now, I can actually select a specific word like this. And I can scrub over this value to select a different word. This is ideal if you would like to first have the first highlight going on in here, which you can see in blue right over there, and then select a secondary word right over here. So let's see a very quick example of how we can apply this. First, turn off the highlight intensity of the text highlight to 0. So we only focus on the first one. And as we have done before, actually I would like to tie this animation in with this value right over here of the highlighter 2. So let's go to the animation in, go to range selector, and from offset, we're going to hold option and click on that stopwatch. And now we are going to open the text highlight one, and we are going to simply pick with this to that highlight position right over there. So now we reveal this sentence as it is being revealed with this value right over here. Now, of course, at the end in here, the word remains like highlighted in here, since we are using the fall-off radius. In that case, what we can do is actually remove the highlight intensity at the end. Let's hit U on our keyboard. I would like to start animating from around here. Let's go to the highlight intensity, click on the stopwatch, and it's at 100% at this point. Hit U again and U again to reveal all the keyframes, and we're going to go to the end in here and set that to 0%. I'm going to simply select both of these keyframes and hit F9, and then we can see our animation. So that looks quite good already. Now what I would like to do is actually end up my animation by highlighting one of the words. Let's go to the text highlight too, and I'm going to go to the highlight intensity and set that to 100% so that I can see where I am targeting correctly. And I'm going to increase this highlight position to 12% in this case to affect only this word named highlight. Go to the fill color. Let's change it to a different color, something like this, for instance. And I'm going to also increase its tracking amount like this. Right now, my animation looks like this, but I would actually like this second highlighted word in here to appear at a later stage. To do that, we can simply go to the place where we would like to reveal that. So somewhere around here, go to highlight intensity, click on the stopwatch, choose 0%. Then if we reveal all of those keyframes, hit U on your keyboard twice to reveal that. We're going to move forward a few frames, and now we're going to turn that to 100%. We're going to select both of these keyframes, hit F9, going to go to the graph editor, and we're going to squeeze these a little bit in here. Now we can see this animation right over here. And you can see that the whole sentence reacts to this last word right over there. Perfect, so that's the text highlighting tool. Now you can get this from a link in the description. And with this, I'm also going to add the text box tool. This is quite interesting. So we can simply add a layer, new, and shape layer from here. With this shape layer selected, we can simply go right over here. Under text presets in here, I also have the text box presets. You can simply type in text box from here to reveal it. And then if we double click while that shape layer is selected, this preset is added right over here. You will see this error in here. That's because we simply need to select the text layer in here. So let's go to this shape layer in here, go to select text layer and choose our text layer. So this would be this one. And as you can see, if we drag it right under the text, this works immediately. And that works like that. And as you can see, the text box actually resizes directly to your text. Now this text box has some other features in it. So if I go inside of text box right over here, let's rename this to text box, and I go to the text box effect in here. As you can see, we can first select the text layer that we would like to use. Then we can select the horizontal padding. We can even increase and decrease the vertical padding like that. We can even, if you would like, adjust position. So if we would like it to, for instance, be aligned to the bottom like that, we can. We can even increase and decrease the roundness like that. It's completely flat. but we can add that to 80, for instance, to make it completely round. And if we decrease the vertical padding now, it will look somewhere like that. Then we can also add the text box color from here, just like that. Press OK. You can increase and decrease the stroke thickness like that, and the stroke color from right over here. So like that, you can see how in a few steps we can add the text highlighting and also add a text box using these presets. Now you can find both of these presets from a link in the description below, and I'm also going to add the text box presets to my Patreon subscribers. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, you can just download it from right over there. Great, so now we are going to see how we can do that glowing outline around our text. In this case, I'm actually using the first scene that we have created together without any presets, and we're going to pick the text box that we have created earlier. So I'm going to go over the stroke and give it a darker color actually. Let's click OK, and we have now this nice outline. Now I'm going to duplicate this, Command D on your keyboard, and we're going to rename this to text box outline. And I'm going to solo this for now. I'm going to pick this text box outline, go over the fill and cycle through it while holding Alt. So hold Alt on your keyboard and cycle through it until this fill is removed completely like this. And now let's go over the stroke in here, and I'm going to give it a color of white. So now we have a white stroke. Open this up in here, go to add and add the trim paths property. So you can find it down below in here, trim paths, click on it, and that will give you this property in here called trim paths right over here. So let's open that up. With this, we can animate our outline, our stroke, and we're going to keyframe the end property in here. So let's keyframe that at around 2 seconds, and we're going to go to around 0.5 seconds and keyframe that at 0%. And now we can see this animation in here with this stroke being revealed. Now, at the same time, I would like to add another animation here over at the start, which will start from 0% and end at 100% somewhere around here. And what this will do, it will basically erase that outline like that. So now we have this animation like that. Actually, would like to select the keyframes of the end in here, hit F9 on your keyboard, then go to the graph editor, and we're going to pick the last keyframe in here and pull it in like that, so that we have a very fast in animation like that. And we're going to do the contrary for these top keyframes right over here. So go to the graph editor, pick the first keyframe, hit F9 and pull that in like that, and then simply hit F9 while picking this keyframe right in here. So now this will start slowly and end faster, exactly the contrary to the other one. One last animation that I'm going to add is to the offset. So I'm going to go right over here, go over offset, click the stopwatch, go to the end keyframe right over here, simply going to give it a value of 180 so that now it rotates slightly while it's being animated like that. And you can make this look even more pronounced by simply giving it a higher value, something like, let's say 270, and we can even pick both of these keyframes and hit F9, and we can see how that looks now like that. We can maybe close this animation in by pulling this keyframe and aligning it with the end keyframe in here, and now it looks like this. So now if I unsolo this, we can see that we have like this outline on top of this text box. Now, to make it look a little bit nicer, what we can do is go over the stroke right over here, and we can go to the taper feature in here, go to the start length under taper, give this like a 75% value, and we can see now that this stroke tapers at the start in here. And if you go to the end length, we can do the same thing in here. Let's make it 25%, and now this looks like this. One last subtle thing that we can do is actually to add a glow over this. So let's go to the text box outline, find glow from effects and presets, and drag and drop it over that text box outline. That's the glow. I'm going to duplicate it with its features like this, duplicate it. We're going to increase the radius to around 70. I'm going to duplicate it one more time, and this time increase the radius to around 200. So now we have like this nice glowing stroke. Now what we can do is we can simply pick the track matte, choose the text box in here, like that. And now the glow only happens inside of the text box. Just don't forget to show that text box back on right over there. And now we have this very nice glowing outline with our text box. Another thing that I'm going to add is actually to reduce a bit its intensity. So let's hit T on the keyboard and give it a value of 50, like that. And now the glow is a little bit less visible like that. And I like how it looks like this. Now, before we end this video, I would like to very quickly show you how I did the gradient background for this text. This was actually done using a preset, but you can also do it without a preset. You can watch this video right over here, where I explain everything about animating colors.